Hi everyone, this is Valeria Chavez speaking. I am part of the innovation team and part of the Ambular team as well from ICAO. We are really excited to have all of you here so we can share with you this amazing project that we've been working on. So I'll start by giving you some insights on how the whole Ambular project started. In 2017, ICAO got in contact with Charles Bombardier, who at that time began an endeavor to understand and to promote the future of aviation. Charles is an internationally recognized futuristic who works on concepts and short animation videos through his company Imagine Active. And one key concept that Charles worked on along with our colleague Martin Rico was actually the Ambular project. Then in 2019, ICAO hosted its first innovation fair, and we were actually really excited to showcase the Ambular there. But at the end we couldn't because we shipped the Ambular all the way from China and it didn't arrive on time. Now a bit from our story is that in 2018, all of the designs for the Ambular started to be drafted by our colleague Martin Rico. Then last year we built a 1/10 scale prototype, and towards the end of the year we finally unveiled the Ambular at ICAO headquarters on December 7th, celebrating the International Civil Aviation Day. Now this year, 2020, after getting in contact with an amazing person and professor from Concordia University, Luis Rodriguez, we got the opportunity to move our mockup to the fourth space in Concordia campus. And now we're currently working on the third design of the Ambular, which is pretty exciting for us. Now I'm going to explain you a bit about the Ambular Creed, which is basically what the team believes in and our principles. So our principles are the following, being the first one, environmental accountability, which basically means that no action shall be taken unless no other more environmentally friendly option is available. The second one is social responsibility. Then the third one is data stewardship, which means that the Ambular will never collect any personal information other than that information needed from the medical system, of course. And last but not least, share and enjoy. This means that the Ambular project shall be shared for free with all of those who commit to the Ambular Creed. We will be sharing this information with you in the following slides. Now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Martin Rico, who will give further information on the Ambular designs. Thank you.
Thanks, Valeria, for the introduction. I'm Martin Rico, the industrial designer on the Ambular team. Let's talk a bit about the design. As Valeria stated before, we started in 2018 as part of the ICAO program on the future of aviation. It was part of the content we were creating for the innovation fair, and we didn't know that we were going to build it later on. In 2019, Yuri Fatah, the team leader, told me that we should go forward and make a prototype of the Ambular. So we sketched some proposals, 3D modeled the chosen ones, and we made some renderings. We decided to contact some companies to build a 1:1 scale mockup. Ruchun, a team member, found out of a company that was building huge mockups in China, so we contacted them and sent the blueprints. They made it in a fiberglass shell and steel legs, and then later sent it to Montreal, where later on it was unveiled on the 6th of December of 2019. For the Civil Aviation Day, that's the 7th. While we were waiting for its delivery, we worked on the 1/10 scale functioning prototypes. We have all the parts to build them, but we need to change it a bit on the structural design because we were using a different material, 3D printing, and it doesn't have the same stiffness as carbon fiber. Now we are working on the Ambular 3.0 design, which will probably have 2 paramedics inside and the patient. We have talked with different doctors and experts, and there's some situations where 1 paramedic is enough, but in some situations there's a need for 2. We need to use light and strong materials like carbon fiber, and we are debating on the range and speed. That could be between 15 and 30 minutes of flight time and 50 minutes reserved with speeds of 100 kilometers an hour or more. This will depend on a few factors I will expand later on. The aircraft cost should be as low as possible, and it must be a simple design, while covering all the devices and paramedics' needs. As a key factor, we will consider the operational cost that will be the most important advantage of this aircraft from the ones you are already used to see in the emergency sector. Some of the specs that will cover all these requirements mentioned will be like having from 8 up to 16 motors depending on the weight and thrust. The structure is going to be a carbon fiber monocoque as light as it can be. We are considering lithium polymer batteries as the main option, but talking to one of our ICAO colleagues, Alejandro Bloch, an expert in the subject, part of the team, he stated that we should take a look at hydrogen fuel cells. Also, we are not discarding a hybrid system. While Ambular is going to be an autonomous aircraft, we have to consider that there's a long path for this to work. So we are having remote pilot systems and the capability of the paramedic inside to take control of the aircraft if any issue arises. All the supplies needed for the different emergency situations are going to be supplied as long as it's possible to fit them in the aircraft. We had some discussions in the past to use ducted props and ducted fans, but it's still something we are not sure about because it will add a lot of weight and it has electric motors. The safe startup and shutdown is really fast as they have instant torque. The emergency sequence is straightforward. An emergency call that could come from the app requests the services of the Ambular. An AI will sort out location and assign the nearest aircraft and paramedic available. The commute will be handled by the AI unless any unexpected problem arises, and the paramedic trained to pilot will take control of the aircraft to land as soon as possible. After the patient is stabilized on site, the aircraft will return to the nearest hospital. So Dunia is going to talk a bit more about the sponsorship program.
Thank you so much, Martin. So the idea of the sponsorship program that involves many different ways in which people, organizations or companies can contribute is to ultimately develop a 1/4 scale of a fully functional prototype in a period of 4 years. So you'll see in the next few slides that there's different ways in which a company, an organization, a person can contribute to the project. But before we get into these types of details, it's important also to understand why the Ambular constitutes a pretty nice opportunity for sponsors to enhance or to do a couple of things. The first opportunity is that sponsors will be able to market and showcase their involvement in what is an ICAO initiative, which is the future of aviation. The second one is that it enables to enhance awareness and visibility of a company or an organization within the Ambular community, but also through all the reach out initiatives that the Ambular project will provide, right? So the idea here is to understand what the Ambular initiative is. It's a platform where you have all the different players of the aviation sector, academia, companies, and regulators that come together to work on a common goal. So as a company, as a startup, let's say, if you join this project, you'll have access to a pretty interesting network that can also be used for networking purposes. The third opportunity is that the Ambular can be used in order to gather information that will be, The third opportunity is that different sponsors will be able to use the information that they will, or collectively will have been gathered throughout the process from idea to certification for their own products or projects or whatever initiatives that they are involved in within their companies and organizations. And we can pretty much see here that the information that will be gathered can be of extreme importance, or can be extremely useful for example, the regulators to understand, what a startup goes through. It's pretty interesting in terms of information. So now let's talk about the sponsorship programs. So as I mentioned earlier, there's different types of sponsorship programs. So a sponsor may choose to contribute financially or in kind. So the financial contributions are in the slide pretty well explained. So the idea is, depending on the amount that will be contributed, the company organization may have different opportunities to market, or to give visibility to their organization, to their company's work. Now, in terms of sponsorship in kind, so there's many different ways that companies, organizations, people can contribute. So the first idea would be by supplying different types of material necessary for the development of the prototype. So, for example, battery, engines, other types of material. This sort of contribution is absolutely necessary and essential if we want to see the Ambular fly one day. The other contribution, for example, that we can imagine right now, or foresee right now, would be to contribute in the virtual reality experience or in the simulation experiences. So essentially to develop part of the Ambular project, right? So these are really the contributions that we can see, but obviously if a company and organization is interested and has a different product or a different way to contribute, or sees something that we don't see, we are obviously very, very open to suggestions. Now, so just to recap a little bit the intention of this project. So we do realize today that the Ambular has the potential to be used from the regulator side, but also from the private sector side, from academia, to understand what are the various steps in the realization process of such a project. So what does a startup that decides to get involved in such a project go through? What are the different challenges? What are the different opportunities? What does a regulator need to understand in order to provide a proper framework for such projects to be able to be carried out? So our intention here is really to go through this experience as any startup would, really going through all the different steps, understanding really very clearly all the challenges, so we can unleash the potential of eVTOLs. Our idea here is to serve humanity through the air by following the lines of the United Nations Social Development Goals. So there are a few key differences that we have to keep in mind for this project. First of all, this is a project that's run by volunteers. So all the people who work in this project are essentially doing it on their free time because they're interested in learning, they see some potential to learn something out of this project, or simply because they're really passionate and they want to contribute by sharing their passion with others. So the Ambular is a project that's supported by ICAO, so morally, not financially, and that's why we're looking for financial sponsors to help us finance some aspects of this project. So because also it's important to understand that the Ambular is not a company, so we cannot really bring the product to market. This means that we're not intending to make any profit out of this project. This project is simply to understand things better and ultimately really unleash the potential of eVTOLs. So our next steps, the next steps that we are expecting to go through in the short and midterm, or at least during the COVID period, is so to get Concordia students involved. So we, through our contact, Luis at Concordia University, who is actually, a very, very active volunteer in this project, we will be drafting a project proposal so Concordia students have a pretty clear and good idea of what they can do in order to contribute to this project, and how they can contribute. By contributing to this project, they can advance in their PhD thesis or their capstone in their master's degree. We also want to focus a lot on the marketing aspects. So we've been developing quite a few documents, such as brochures. We have a website in place. We've developed a number of videos. We have a lot of photos and some, written content. And the idea here is to, refine what we currently have. And if we have anybody who could contribute from the marketing perspective to the project, this would be absolutely amazing. So for our sponsors, we also intend to draft some solid proposals. Really clear proposals on how sponsors can contribute. So, they have an idea of what they can do for the project. We also, if you look at the Ambular websites, you'll see that there's a news feed. So in that news feed, we want to start feeding it essentially by providing some news content. So, for example, we were thinking of having sort of UAM wiki pages, so that explain different aspects related to UAM. But by using the Ambular as an example in a video, through pictures, and so on and so forth. We also understand that many people that will be involved in this project will have a very different backgrounds, and so they will contribute in a very different way to the Ambular project, and they will see the project very, very differently as well, so from a different perspective. So the idea is also to create some videos where all these different people are showing or contributing or explaining essentially what their contribution to the project is, and what the, for example, marketing or mechanical engineering perspectives are towards the project. And so today we have started our kickoff meeting, and this was something that we were very much looking forward to, so we can get more people involved. So in terms of next steps, Martin will explain now what are the different R&D components of the Ambular, and how we see you, or at least those of you who are interested in this project, contributing to it in the next few months, years, and maybe even more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dunia. We must focus on research and development aspects now. For that, we will start making some brainstorm sessions to improve our current design. We will need volunteers of different areas, such as mechanical, aeronautical engineers, marketing, an area that now is really important given the situation we have. It's the way to keep it alive. And other areas such as business, finance, legal, and in this particular one we have several contacts on IKEA that are helping on these regulatory issues. And also we've been talking to doctors that know exactly what is needed inside the aircraft. Let's take a look at the Ambular evolution. It started just as a concept for carrying the patient to the hospital, and then we added the paramedic inside. The 3.0 version is going to be changing a lot from now on. Thank you very much for joining this presentation. Don't be afraid to reach us, we need people like you.